Hi, I'm David King, the editor and associate publisher of The Collaborative, and today I'm joined by Jim Murphy and Sal Prizio of Proctors and the two producers of the Eddies Local Music Awards. We're here today to talk about essentially everything going on with the Eddies, including why it came together, how exactly the nominees got decided, and how folks can get involved. I know there's a lot of excitement out there. We've seen a lot of posts. Obviously, the Collaborative is involved, and so we're excited about it too. But I wanted to get a sense from you guys first about what you're seeing out there in terms of response to bringing this kind of award show to the Capital Region.
I think, the first thing that's kind of hit me by the whole thing is how many emails I've gotten back from people saying, we're so excited you guys are doing this. It's long overdue. It's a really cool way for all of us to get together, make an excuse for all of us to get together in the music scene in this area and just, have a good time and celebrate each other. So it's been 99.99% positive. I can't think of any negative comments that have come our way, so it's good stuff.
Yep. I felt in the past that the local music scene, it sometimes has a little bit of a self-consciousness to it. People aren't, they're sort of scared to celebrate themselves in some ways. But the response I've seen to this has been overwhelmingly positive, and people thinking, why haven't we had this? And across all sorts of genres that I've seen so far.
Which is really cool.
Yeah, whether
when
it's
you see
hip-hop
a punk band email you we're so surprised, we're so honored to be a part of this. It was that's really cool. Hip hop, all of it. It's just been very across. It's genreless as far as the appreciation for it, which is cool. I think the fact that we have Proctors and the Collaborative behind this too lends a certain sense of credibility to the whole thing too. It's I think it carries some weight with it, and people are excited to be associated with that. So
I heard about this maybe 5-6 months ago now, but I knew it was in the works a lot longer than that, or at least the seed had been planted a long time ago. And as obvious as it seems that the area should have something like this, I'm wondering what the impetus was and what the development was like to get this off the ground.
Sure. It was Jim.
Yeah.
Jim is the impetus.
I grew up in the Syracuse market and lived there most of my adult life. And my wife and I and family moved here 12 and a half years ago up to Glens Falls. And in 1992, they started an organization there called the SAMMYs, the Syracuse Area Music Awards, and started having an annual award show in 93. And we're big local music fans. We probably see about 150 shows a year. And what I saw over time was this music scene that was very interactive and collaborative. We talk about collaborative a lot. And doing all kinds of cool things. And I think a lot of that started and coalesced around the awards show. Now there's Beetlejuice in Syracuse every year where 40, 50 musicians get together and celebrate the music of the Beatles. Last weekend there was a David Bowie show. One of the cool things that's come up recently was about 45 musicians got together and performed a classic Chieftains Christmas album in a church at Christmas time. And these aren't shows where one act comes up and another act comes up. These are shows where maybe there's rhythm section from one band and horns from another and a lead singer from another, and they interrelate. And then out of that comes just all kinds of other things. And when it came over to the Albany market, I was just shocked that there wasn't anything like this here. And when it came to Proctors 3.5 years ago, I was really eager to do this, but I knew I had a skill set, which was marketing and some other things, and I really needed somebody who understood the technical end of things and knew the local music scene as good or better than I did. And then Sal came aboard more recently, and we started talking about it, and he became my partner in crime. About a year ago, we launched Capitol Records Live and did a couple events at the GE Theater Proctors. One was a night of Beatles music, and the other was a night of music from 1969. And the goal was just to get some musicians in the room. But that wasn't, that wasn't the entire format of Capital Region Records Live. We wanted to, over time, kind of do more collaborative things. And I really wanted up here intellectually to wait another year to do Capitol Records live because I knew it required a long planning process. But he and I started talking. We're like, well, let's just do this now. Let's just get everybody in the room and do it now. So we did what we probably should have done in 9 months, in 2 or 3 months in terms of planning and publicizing. But we pulled it off. Another cool thing that I saw in the past 2 years that was another impetus was something called the Rock Boat, which is a cruise that's been around for 19 years, founded by Sister Hazel. And what I observed there was musicians really enjoy, these are national acts like Bare Naked Ladies and Matt and Edison and bands you never heard of. And Wild Adriatic, which is the one upstate New York band, has been on there a couple times. What I noticed about them is when those people got on a boat for 5 days together, they got to know each other, they go out and tour, they produce each other album. The Wild Adriatic this year had the Summit up in Glens Falls, and they had 2 or 3 rock boat bands. One of the acts they invited to come back, they just recorded and released a 5-song EP. And we're hoping to do the same thing locally. We're hoping that people get together in the room and they collaborate and they perform and they record. And, there's all kinds of directions we got to go in. But the Eddies is a great way to get them in the room and to celebrate them and to say thank you. And that, this is a huge part of all of our lives. So let's enjoy it and have fun. It doesn't matter who wins, who loses. It's really about just getting people in the room.
People are interested though in who's going to win,
right.
And we've gotten some inquiries about the process and what happens and what's going on behind the scenes, and they've heard about 60 judges and all of that stuff. So can we just go through essentially how this process-wise came together and what people should expect and how they can still get involved?
Sure.
Sure.
Take that one?
So from a judging perspective, I think the first thing we wanted to do was really project an image of impartiality as far as this is concerned. So we didn't want the voting to be in-house here at Proctors and any of that sort of stuff. So Jim and I had this mission of we need to find, 50 to 75 judges from across the capital region. So, if you're talking about somebody like, somebody that books, a talent booker, or you're talking about somebody that runs a venue, or I'm not going to name specific names because I'm not sure if we're ever going to we'll make the judges' names public and they'll be part of the, that night in the awards, and actually they'll be coming and stuff like that. But when you have somebody from, a live production crew that runs a live sound company, and then you have musicians themselves. So it's a wide swath of everybody across the industry, but not just in a certain location. It's everywhere from Glens Falls all the way down to Schenectady here. So the judges are, the 63 judges that we have are from across the music industry. And they each are getting an electronic ballot with all the nominees on it, with work samples that they can vote on, and we get all of the data in electronically on that. So once those come in, we'll make the awards based on who the winners are, and then we will announce them live that night at the show.
There's in most categories there's 6 nominees. There's a few categories where there's 8. There was a long list of people for some of those categories that were considered, and we had a smaller group of the judges, sort of a nominating committee, kind of narrow down. So some people saw their name on there and thought that maybe they were forgotten, but it wasn't always in the sense that they were forgotten. We just limited to 6 or 8, and we're hoping to do a bunch of things between now and next year that if somebody does have a smaller following or maybe, quote unquote, got forgotten, that we can do some showcases or some other things to give those folks greater visibility and hopefully get them on the short list next year.
And the other thing I really want to emphasize with this, and I'm trying to explain to anybody who asks me any questions about the nomination process and all that other stuff too, is this is the first year of it. So keep in mind, if this is an annual event, if you weren't necessarily nominated this year, you might be nominated next year or the year after that. And Jim and I have had in-depth conversations about, well, if a certain person wins for a certain number of years, should we make some sort of provision that, okay, they're good there, and then we take them off the nominee list. Well, there's all sorts of conversations we're having about that sort of stuff. But the bottom line is we really wanted to work hard to make sure the awards had integrity to them.
Mm-hmm. I mean, what's sort of exciting to me about this in general, including obviously getting folks all in the room, but the idea that the conversation about current work is going to become more vital, I think, and people are going to focus on what each other are doing and pay attention to releases a little bit more.
Yeah.
And people are going to try to book bigger shows and think about how they can sort of get people's attention. And I know the intention here is, in some ways, and I won't spill the beans, but to keep this as a living, breathing thing, and perhaps have events in between the awards every year. So I think it becomes a forum, for folks who really want to stay involved to make their talent known. And I mean, I'm excited to see, obviously, how the first award show goes, but also year 2 sounds like it might even, be even bigger.
Year two's booked already, so we have a date on the main stage. And in between, I mean, Sal and I have got a lot of ideas, and some of them I think are pretty darn good. But we're really going to encourage folks the night of the award show to approach us and say, "Hey, I want to play. I want to do this. I want to do it with this person. I want to do it there." Or if it's a venue, I want to host this. I want to do this. We really want it to be organic, and we can draw attention to it, and we can organize it, and we can play a lot of roles. But we don't want to control it. We want as much input from the music community, both the venues, the educators. We're hoping to do some things with kids, and certainly the artists. So, recording studios. Whoever wants to approach us and say, "Hey, I got an idea." One of the cool things I saw in the Rock Boat was they got together some musicians in a room to write for a few days together and put out an album. I'd love to put out an EP or something with some local musicians doing writing. We would facilitate that. So anything that anybody has, we'd really like to be approached and hear them out.
There are a few people I have in mind that I'd love to see do collaborations, and some of the reporting that obviously Katie Cusack did over the last few years has led to some collaborations that we've seen sort of happen because of people being introduced to each other, and Pink Noise and Nuns and Apostrophe S, and these folks who might not normally be in the room together doing these really interesting shows. And to think that could happen on a different level, I mean, it also helps get people more attention. And we've seen people, who may have toured or lived in Massachusetts come in and now work in Albany, and suddenly there's this network that's created of places to play and people who might not normally be plugged in. So all of that's very exciting. But then there is a way for the general audience to get involved beforehand, the People's Choice Awards.
Yes.
So we want to go over the three...
the 3 categories?
Yeah, the 3 categories.
So one of which, much like we have our own Artist of the Year, we're looking for, People's Choice Artist of the Year. We also have, the Concert of the Year, and I think, what was the third
Venue.
one? Venue,
Yep.
thank you. The Venue of the Year. So it's just an opportunity, much like a lot of the other People's Choice or, those awards we see a lot go on in this market. It's an opportunity for the general population to kind of have their say about who they feel and what they feel is their favorite in the area. So we thought it's good to have that award and represent the folks out there as well.
And how long do folks have to vote at this point? Or
the voting's open now. When does it close?
I believe it's the last week of the month. I don't remember the exact date. 24th, 26th, something like that.
Yeah.
There's a link on our site. There's a link on Proctors as well. I mean,
it's simple write-in too.
Yeah.
Write in whoever you'd like.
I've seen a lot of buzz. I've seen a lot of folks promoting themselves, and I think
nothing wrong with that.
Yeah, no. I think it could
Strongly
be
encouraged.
Yeah, at the end of the day, that's what we want.
We didn't want this whole thing to be a popularity contest, and that's why we had judges, because I think it shines a different light on different people when you do that. The ones that maybe aren't as good as self-promotion, but we also want to hear what the audience wants to say and hear. So we got both.
And I know you're not ready to make this announcement, but there are a number of acts who are going to be playing. This is a night of music.
Yes.
So folks will show up. How much are tickets? $20?
$20.
And you'll see a number of local acts across a wide spectrum, it sounds like.
Yeah, they're all nominees that'll be performing that night from all the different genres. Not all the different genres, but some of the different genres that we have for categories for awards that night. So I think it's much like the Grammys and all the big award shows that go. Yeah, the Hall of Fame.
With people going up on stage and getting something and talking. And then,
so it'll be. It's a great opportunity, even if you're not that familiar with the music scene in this area for you to get up to speed. I mean, that was kind of one of the goals we had with Capitol Records Live.
Yeah.
Like, we used the Beatles' music to introduce you to all these great artists in the area, or the music of 1969.
Well, Jim is all too familiar with this, but I go to my mother-in-law for a number of stories. she's a huge consumer of Proctors. She's a subscriber. She comes here for everything. She's a volunteer, et cetera, et cetera. And we'd written about Girl Blue and a number of the participants in Capitol Records Live at the Alt. And, I don't think it really crossed her mind, but it showed up here, and she's, "Are you going? This is amazing!" It was like suddenly she was very invested in all these groups because Proctors was presenting them, and I think it's a great way to get these folks some exposure that they deserve. And there's talent here like Girl Blue, who, I mean, they could do anything.
Yeah. The great thing about those two shows is I've seen Girl Blue perform, and I've seen Wild Adriatic and some of the other acts perform, and I can guarantee you that audience at both of those shows wasn't their normal audience.
Yeah.
So, and the comments around us from people ages 30 to 70 was, they most cases, just blown away. And it didn't matter whether it was Dark Honey, which is a little grungy, or Girl Blue that does her thing. People are really into what they heard, and the goal is to get them out to see those folks in their natural element.
And are you going to limit award speeches or what? What are we?
That's a great question.
We've got a hook.
Yeah. A literal hook. Just like the old school vaudeville thing. It's a vaudeville stage. Might as well give them the hook.
Yeah. Well, what we'll do is we'll hold a drink over the side of the stage and tell them the faster the quicker they come over and have a drink with us. So.
The goal with the show, we want to kick off the show at 6 o'clock. The goal is to have it end around 9 o'clock. So if we can get it done in 3 hours, that would be nice.
No, that's not bad.
We've had a lot of people suggest other categories, and one of our tugging is there's award shows from Seattle to Syracuse, which is why it's so important that Albany have one. But generally they're about 25 or 30. There are some that are up to 80 awards. We're not going to get people to stay 7 or 8 hours, so we're hoping for a 3-hour show. That's a good evening out.
I should approach you about this behind the scenes, but I have a solution for you.
Oh.
We'll debut some of the winners on the collaborative.
That's actually something that he and I briefly talked about. Is there may kind of like the Academy has a pre-announced technical awards and stuff. Even in Syracuse, and that's something we want to talk about today. They have a dinner now the night before, and there they announced their Lifetime Achievement Award, Sammy Hall of Fame winner. And one of the things that we're going to do is create a Capital District Hall of Fame for local music. And we're going to announce that night where it's going to be located, but it's not just handing somebody an award, it's a physical location where you're going to be able to go more in a public place with a lot of traffic, where you're going to be able to go, and not Proctors, by the way, where you can go and find out a lot more information about local music and see who's won these awards. So we're really excited about that. But back to your point, there may be a time where we have to, parse out the awards over a couple different events or something, or announcements.
And so finally, how should folks get tickets at this point? What are the
Proctors.org or call the Proctors box office.
Well, I'm excited, and thank you guys so much for coming on. I hope I'm presenting an award. I don't know. It could get.
Oh,
dicey.
You're definitely presenting an award. I have you on the list.
We're going to put you to work.
Yeah, and I think Katie was asked too, and we'll see how she reacts. You never know.
Katie's, also up for an award, being a journalist for the Alt. So
I don't think she was expecting that.
Yeah. So along with some folks from the Times Union and elsewhere, it's actually a category that's very competitive. A lot of talented people in it. So.
Oh, absolutely. There's I'm not one of those journalists who thinks journalists are extremely special people and have to be defended and praised all the time, but I do think that there are a lot of really great working music journalists who have helped this scene grow, and whether it's someone like Mike Eck, who for years was doing it, or some of the folks who even aren't nominated, like Kirsten Ferguson and other folks who are just have really helped bands explode, like Fanagram and things like that. So it's that's part of the story too.
Yeah, it is, and. Let me put a plug in for, helping bands explode. If folks could share what they see about the Eddie Awards on their social media and tell their friends, we'd really appreciate it. We'd like to have the musicians receive the awards and play to a full house. So
Yeah. Well, thanks so much, and I'm really excited to learn some of this stuff too. So I'll keep bugging you behind the scenes, and I encourage everyone to visit the collaborativemagazine.org or Proctors to find out how to get tickets and how to vote.
great, thank you.
Thank
Thanks.
you.